Good morning to the audience of Navhara Times and entire Times Group. This morning we have Elchin Amir Bayev with us, who is the first, first secretary of Vice President of Azerbaijan. So the first question to you, Elchin, this morning is that we have heard the latest is that in Geneva, both countries, Armenia and Azerbaijan, have agreed on some kind of uh, ceasefire, or you can say not to hit the civilian targets. What is the update from your side, Elchin?
Well, basically, it is true that yesterday foreign ministers of Azerbaijan and Armenia have spent several hours talking about the modalities of implementing the previous agreement on humanitarian truce, which was first achieved in Moscow, as you know, and then later was reconfirmed by Paris and also lately in Washington. But all three times, as you know, several minutes after it entered into force, Armenian side started again to open fire and artillery fire and rocket fire at Azerbaijani civilians and military positions. That's why all three times it didn't hold. But this time, two ministers, at the invitation of co-chairmen of the OSCE Minsk Group, which are US, Russia, and France, they decided to go through again all these elements in order to bring to life the previous agreement on humanitarian truce. The major expected result of implementing this agreement is to allow two parties to carry out some humanitarian measures, namely to recover and exchange the remains of military servicemen of two parties, and then also in cooperation with ICRC, International Red Cross, and the personal representative of Chairman in Office of OSCE, in cooperation with them to exchange the list of prisoners of war and other detained persons in order to allow for the exchange.
Okay, so Elchin, we would like to know, as we hear that more than 1,000 people have already been killed. So how many will be prisoners of war? What could be the number, if you can tentatively tell us?
Well, it is a very difficult question to answer because we cannot provide any concrete figures on this. Even as far as the casualties are concerned, whatever you are reading in the press are approximate figures because it's very hard at this time when the military hostilities are still going on to give a more or less accurate figure. But on our side, Azerbaijani party, we have proposed purely on humanitarian grounds, even when hostilities are still going on, to render to the Armenian side the corpses of Armenian military servicemen, which are held by us. And so 2 days ago, this gesture of goodwill was, reported to mediators. And with the assistance of ICRC and Russian Federation, these 30 bodies of Armenian servicemen were passed through the corridor at the border between Azerbaijan and Armenia, as well as one elderly lady who was taken as prisoner when Azerbaijani forces liberated part of the territories. She also was transferred to the Armenian side. The Armenian side still refused to accept another old gentleman who was ready to be transferred to the other side. But we hope that what is important is that the good precedent has been established. Unfortunately, we haven't yet received any reciprocal measures from the Armenian side because we are sure that they are having certain bodies of our military servicemen. So we hope that with the mediation of those involved, they also will reciprocate and we will receive the bodies of our servicemen.
So we would like to know in India, because there is a great sense of, you can see they are worried here also. People are worried about the conflict, growing conflict in Caucasus. So right now, what is the situation after that negotiation on exchanging the names and corpses of from both sides. What is the latest in Nagorno-Karabakh region? What's the latest?
Yes, thank you for the interest. And I think it's very important to provide the Indian audience with an opportunity of hearing the views of both sides. And I thank you for your readiness to do so. Since early morning, our positions in several areas of the front line have been again subjected to heavy artillery fire. And even yesterday, the rocket launchers, were used against Agdam and Gubatli and other regions of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijani side has made it clear that we are ready to pursue the search for peaceful resolution around the negotiation table, but on the condition that Armenian side first stops firing and secondly commits itself to the implementation of the earlier agreed basic principles on the settlement, which envisage the withdrawal of Armenian armed forces from all the occupied territories of Azerbaijan, which is Nagorno-Karabakh, as you know, but also 7 regions around Nagorno-Karabakh. Up until now, Armenia has refused to do so, and that is why the counteroffensive of Azerbaijani forces was continuing, and we have been able to liberate quite a lot of occupied territories. But the choice is for Armenia whether they want to pursue the peaceful resolution or they want to continue this meaningless war. Meaningless because...
So, Elchin, we are getting very...
I'm sorry, why meaningless? Because for the Armenian side, which is losing more and more ground on the battlefield, there is no way that they can regain all those territories. And of course, our army is highly motivated to continue the deoccupation of our territories in line with international law, sir. And that should be underlined because we are doing that in accordance with 4 resolutions of the United Nations Security Council, which were adopted in 1993, but remained unimplemented because of Armenia's position.
So we are getting conflicting news about the bombardment in Barda area. We are getting that Smirk missiles were used or cluster bombs were used. What's your take? What's your information about that?
Well, I was at the place because the day before yesterday, we took the diplomatic corps representatives, the ambassadors, but also defense attaches who are accredited in Baku, to Barda, but also to Terter. These are 2 towns which are quite away from the zone of combat activities, but which were chosen by Armenian side for rocket attack. So the multiple rocket launchers of type Smerch were used to target civilian population. And those guests that we took to the ground, they were witnessing that as a result of these attacks in both towns, we are talking about 42 persons killed, 17 in Tartar and 25 in Barda. So in Barda, it was the biggest and the gravest singular episode of killing civilians since the hostilities started on the 27th of September. And they were using cluster munitions with these rockets of Smerch in order to increase the number of fatalities. And they succeeded because they killed several kids, they killed women, they killed elderly people, and the diplomats and defense attaches were taken to those places. They met the people who were victimized as a result of this attack. And what is important, sir, Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, they have confirmed the fact that Armenia was using cluster munitions in order to attack the civilian population. We have invited both Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International to send their teams on the ground so that they can register and put on record all the war crimes that took place. Because, as you know, targeting civilian population deliberately is a war crime in accordance with
under Geneva Convention
of 1949 and in accordance with international humanitarian law.
Yeah, so from Indian perspective, Elchin, we would like to know, as we are getting also reports of Islamist mercenaries and some outlawed organizations are also fighting for you against Armenia, and that is a cause of concern because that line goes from not only Turkey, but reports are coming that some from Pakistan as well are going to fight for you, and that is a cause of concern for India as well. So, what's your take on that?
Well, Mr. Kumar, let me tell you that it was not only military aggression that we were subjected to on the 27th of September, it was also a very strong and purposeful disinformation campaign which was unleashed by Armenia in world media. You know that they are spread all over the world. They have diasporas in many countries, including in India, and they are using their presence in the mass media in order to spread different kind of fake news, in order to tarnish the image of Azerbaijan. I can tell you responsibly that Azerbaijan has never invited any mercenaries or combatants from abroad, neither from Turkey, nor from Syria, nor from Pakistan, because we simply do not need any additional military force. Our army consists of 100,000 of highly motivated servicemen who are very well equipped, who are very well trained, and which are able to carry out any military attack. On the contrary, we have some very credible intelligence information that several thousand Kurdish terrorists from PKK have been invited by Armenia from the Middle East since late August to Armenia in order for them to participate and to fight on the Armenian side. You can
So, do you deny, Elchin, that Turkish warplanes have not been supporting Azerbaijani troops? Do you deny these reports?
There is no military involvement whatsoever of Turkey. What Turkey did was diplomatic and political support at the level of head of state and other high-level officials. And that is natural because Turkey is a natural ally and strategic partner of Azerbaijan. And I should tell you, sir, because you understand the geopolitics of the region, Armenia, since the very beginning, tried to involve its allies on its side, mainly Russia and other members of the Organization on Collective Security Treaty. And Azerbaijan, of course, they wanted to isolate Azerbaijan. And the presence of Turkey by our sides and its very vocal support and solidarity with us, it's a deterrent factor. It's a very important stabilizing factor because now this factor prevents this conflict from regionalization. Because imagine if Armenia would succeed to bring Russia on its part, of course it would be end to Azerbaijan's independence. And you, as a representative of the biggest democracy in the world, you understand how important the notion of independence and territorial integrity are to sovereign states. So what Azerbaijan is doing today is trying to restore its territorial integrity and do away and put an end to illegal foreign occupation, which is there since 1993.
So, has there been any talks with Indian government from your side, and have you tried to tell them, convince them that whatever is happening in that region, conflict region, and who is responsible for that? Any talks with India on that?
Well, of course, we are reaching out to all our partners and to all the nations who are taking interest in this conflict. And of course, through diplomatic channels, all the necessary information is transmitted to Indian authorities. Of course, we have our embassy in New Delhi, and also we have other channels of communication. Ambassador of India in Azerbaijan is attending regularly all the briefings, which are regularly organized by the Foreign Ministry, by the Ministry of Defense. Our aim is not to allow disinformation to take root in public opinion. And the reason why I also I appreciate your giving me an opportunity is also to reach out to broader Indian public opinion, because I know how active Armenian side is in your country in trying to provide their narrative. So it is only natural that Azerbaijan also has an opportunity to provide its point of view.
So, last question to you, Elchin, because we are reaching 15 minutes time slot. That Russia being the part of Minsk group, right? And on the other hand, there are reports that Russians are also helping Armenians. Now it's 3-decade-old conflict, and there are minorities, Armenian minorities, ethnic Armenians who are holding on that region, Nagorno-Karabakh. And officially, of course, through many international negotiation, it said that that particular region belongs to Azerbaijan. So there is a great conflict there. Ethnic Armenians present on your soil, if we go by the international treaties. So what is the lasting peace treaty? What is the way ahead? Because any temporary truce can, I think, crumble again in future.
Well, let me provide you first a very short answer to your question. That would be the shortest way and the most normal way to achieve peace is to ensure back the primacy of international law. According to international law, Nagorno-Karabakh is an integral part of Azerbaijan. You are right, there is an Armenian population, which is now the only population in Nagorno-Karabakh, but not because there has never been Azerbaijanis there. Before the conflict started, 25% of Nagorno-Karabakh's population were Azerbaijanis, but they were ousted because of the ethnic cleansing, and for almost 30 years, they are refugees and IDPs in Azerbaijan. So that's why we consider that all those Armenians who are originally from that region, they should stay there if they wish, of course, and because we consider them to be our citizens. And as our citizens, they will be provided with all the rights that are enjoyed by the rest of the Azerbaijani population according to our constitution. Azerbaijan is a multi-ethnic and multi-faith country, where respect for all other religions and ethnic groups is ensured, not only by constitution, by a mode of life. We are a multicultural and tolerant society. That's why even today, when the war is going on, sir, there are 30,000 Armenians living in Baku and other parts of Azerbaijan. So we don't see any problem for Armenians to stay there and to be responsible citizens of Azerbaijan who would enjoy all the opportunities that other Azerbaijanis do. But for that to happen, Armenia should withdraw their troops from Azerbaijan because their presence is illegal and it is recognized as illegal by international community. And I think United Nations, of which India is an important partner, has pronounced itself on many occasions that Nagorno-Karabakh is part of Azerbaijan and should remain so. So our way to suggest a peace is to implement those resolutions, to bring back peace to this region, and to eventually restore normal relationship between countries in the region, including between Armenia and Azerbaijan. We do not believe in this eternal war or eternal strife. We would like to make sure that both Armenia and Azerbaijan and Georgia, three countries of South Caucasus, could live in harmony, in dignity, and in peace. For that, Armenia has to abandon its plans to continue illegal occupation of our lands because it is against the law, and Azerbaijan will never tolerate this any longer.
So, sir, I just thought to have a related question because India is also facing that kind of aggression from both the borders, from China and Pakistan, regularly sending terrorists in Indian side. What's your opinion on that? Because India has been the victim here in this region.
Well, you know, if you look at this problem from other sides, you mentioned China and Pakistan. Each side has its own vision of that and its own narrative. What is important, that's why I'm saying that the major common denominator which should be used in any situation of conflict is international law. And that's why I advise Armenia to look back into this situation from the prism of respect for international law, of United Nations Charter, and also all the other documents which are making the legal basis for international relations. We do hope that India will also stick by this principle with regard to Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, because India has always been, the country which appreciated very much, the respect for international law. And you are part of non-aligned movement, where Azerbaijan is now ensuring, its presidency. And the Bandung principles, which are making the foundation of non-aligned movement, are the principles to which we all adhere. And I think that those principles, together with the United Nations Charter principles, should be the main basis on which all the disputes should be looked upon. Going back to Azerbaijani-Armenian conflict, Azerbaijan is just restoring by its own means, with its own forces, the historic justice. Because for 30 years we were relying on the international community to come to our help and to restore peace. They failed, unfortunately. That's why Azerbaijan has taken its fate in its own hands. And what is going on today, Mr. Kumar, is going on in the internationally recognized territory of Azerbaijan. We have no plans to attack Armenia, or we don't plan to have any military operations in their territory. What we try to do is to clean up this territory from terrorists, from foreign occupants and aggressors. And I think that Armenia has now a choice. Either it goes with us along the peace path, or it chooses the path of war, continues meaningless resistance to Azerbaijan, and loses all of those territories by force.
Okay, thank you very much, Elchin, for connecting with us and telling the Indians audience what's going on in the conflict region. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your readiness to pass this message to the broad public opinion in India, and I wish you all the best.